Am I still sharing my screen on Skype?
Yes.
I'm sharing it within OBS. Or our live stream, rather. Alright, I guess it's time to take this off. No hamburgers right now.
I think Mark's on.
Yep. Mark.
Hello.
Hello. Mark, any ideas for topics?
I don't know.
I mean, everything going through my head is things I think that we've already talked about, I think. Since I just spent the last, 5 days learning how to code a new programming language.
Your brain melted?
No, not so
We could-
much.
We could talk about the difficulties of learning a complicated new skill.
Not completely opposed to that.
At our advanced ages.
I can't.
We need an archivist. We have 100 episodes. Seems legit. Oh, I thought you were talking about a Wikipedia page for us, like our history through the eyes of a viewer or something, a listener. Oh, okay. Okay.
Are we on 109?
Hello, hello, hello. Test your microphones again.
Hello. Anybody in the chat, go ahead and give us kind of like a thumbs up or respond if you can hear all of us now.
109? Hello, hello.
We can't see the thumbs.
All right, I can hear everybody.
They got emojis.
Yay!
Kind of like a thumbs up or respond if you hear all
Oh,
of us now.
balance-wise, do I sound louder or softer than
I can hear.
blah blah?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Cool beans.
Thumbs up or respond. Oh, balance-wise, do I sound louder or softer than?
Wes, you have a little Sean over your shoulder.
Hello. Hello. Cool beans. Thumbs up or respond. Oh, balance-wise, do
Whose
I sound louder?
speakers am I hearing?
That's
Yeah.
me, sorry. Yeah, Wes, move the window of your Skype window. There you go.
For anybody in the chat, go ahead and say hi. Just kind of curious who's out in the audience tonight.
Your mother said hi to me last night, Trebek.
What's up, goat? Say hi to your mother for me.
Donovan, are we still echoing?
That was probably from my speakers.
Oh, okay. Hey, Nate, how you doing? Good to
I
have
hope-
you in the audience. I've been gone for 5 days, and I hate seeing stuff moved around in my office. I have no idea what the hell was done in here.
That your kid's just messing with you at that point.
No, that's my wife. My kids know better. My wife doesn't. Yeah. You guys in the live chat, any requests for topics for tonight? Donovan already kind of pitched the idea of adapting versus stealing, which I think is I think that's an interesting topic. I don't know about you guys. Or if there's ever been a time where you've adapted something, clearly took something from somebody else.
Mario is completely my idea.
Well, I would say that you're like if you're top at your logo is paying homage to. I don't think you're trying to pass anything off as your own. You're clearly referencing something else. I wonder if anybody's ever thought that we've actually borrowed something or stolen something that we actually have or haven't. I don't know.
Well, you used the
Somebody
word
made a
hustle one
comment.
time.
Ooh.
You guys talked at the same time. I couldn't hear what you said.
No, go ahead. That was funny.
I said we used the word hustle one time.
That was never theirs to begin with.
Nope.
Or you
Josh,
say
what was it
Josh?
you said?
Oh, someone on the Twitch stream the other day. I don't know. They raised a question, but they like prefaced it like this is going to sound mean, but it's not intended to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, do you think that the bits videos that we're doing, like why don't we give credit to the people who we got the idea from? Or like
The idea of the
individual
videos or the tips?
Yeah, like the individual videos. Like, why don't we call out people who have done those things?
Because it's such a long list, you can never properly give credit.
Yeah. It's if I like painted a Mario mural on my wall. This, I was like, but I don't know how to use a hammer. I was like, you would need a works cited page or a credits that would rival any cinematic universe to try to give everybody credit that you've ever got an idea to use a simple tool. Like, that's not feasible or practical or correct.
And because even a year ago, I only did one of the video series, but I did a video called Quick Bits.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think I called it Quick Bits. Pretty sure. It was a horrible video, so it didn't matter anyways. We didn't never got any attention. So, you guys think about that for a topic: adapting versus stealing, or
Sure.
Remixing.
And we could probably delve into giving credit and stuff, and kind of like Josh, what you were already saying. Maybe what is the point at which we should be giving credit to versus where it's, not really necessary or a futile attempt. And then go on to whatever we want, I guess, as we have done several times before.
Those tend to be our better episodes, really.
They do.
More entertaining and energetic.
Instead of forcing ourselves into a box, too.
Help him in a box.
We can talk about boxes.
Tiny boxes.
On the hillside.
All right, I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Yep.
Good.
All right. Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 109 of the Making Geeks podcast. We're the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. We have a great show here for you today. And I'll do a quick introduction of my co-host with Mr. Josh Price, Mr. Mark O'Keefe, and Wes Swain. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Not too bad.
Hanging in.
What have you guys been
How
up
are
to
you?
this week? I'm doing good. It's nice to be home. I've been gone for 5 days. I've only been home for about an hour.
Wow.
We've missed you.
Yep. I've missed me too. Josh, what have you been up to?
Working. We launched the podcast. I don't know if we talked about that. We talked about the idea. But we launched the other podcast that we're doing with Bob. It's been pretty well received. Pretty
You heard
fun.
the first 5 minutes? Those 5 minutes were pretty good.
Good.
Isn't your first episode on the top 10 of iTunes?
It was, I guess, the hobbies category.
For the one category, yeah.
It's still pretty good.
It was at number 2, and then it went to number 10. But still, yeah, it was pretty. That was pretty exciting. It's neat. I get to play with Legos. And I'm almost done with the helicopter that I'm building. And at a certain point, I had to stop. And I'm like, I need to do this on the thing, and not just while I'm here in this room by myself.
That looked like a really beefy build.
The thing is big. It's over 2 feet long.
That's what she said.
Yeah, there you go. But I'm now working on a pretty elaborate 3D model for a big collaboration project that we're doing. I can't say too much about, but it's really fun. And it's like a game from my childhood, which I'm pretty excited about.
I think I have an idea already.
Fireball Island.
I don't know, but it's pretty cool. And it's just, I had one of those moments today where, like, look what you're doing right now. Like, things could be far worse in the world. So, yeah, I just had one of those moments. Wes, what about you?
I've been dabbling with my Oculus Go headset that I got. It's pretty fun. Haven't really found any super, like, over inspiring, like, blow my mind kind of apps or games yet, but there are some in there that are definitely pretty cool. And I think I'm probably more of a harsh judge than a typical audience that haven't really messed with a lot of games or graphics development and things, so I might be a little bit too critical on it, but I think it's pretty good, especially for the price point. Once I get it fully hooked up to my computer so I can run Unreal Engine to get my own stuff on there to kind of dabble with, then I'll be much happier. But and let's see what else. Took Samantha and Grant to their first comic book shop today, so that was kind of neat.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
In Cary, it's called Ultimate Comics, and you go in it's got, like, you enter the door and there's they've got, like, a section just for, like, younger readers and, like, a bunch of action figures and all the cool, like, DC, like, higher end statuettes and stuff in behind the glass and all that. And then you go in and they have the typical kind of wall perimeter, and then they have like a little aisle in the middle with your Marvel DC stuff, and it seemed okay. It didn't seem very Ultimate to me. It was not the biggest comic book shop or like stocked. Usually, most of the ones I've gone into, I feel kind of claustrophobic in a good way, in that there's like stuff everywhere. There's like it's organized to the point where like if you go there a lot, you know how it's organized. But when you first walk in, it's like kind of overwhelming. But I didn't have that feeling here, and so we checked out. Grant got a little book, and Samantha got a DC. What is it called? The DC Girls. I forget what it's called. This is a newer line of comics where like it's like younger versions of the female characters, even some of the villains, superhero girls or something.
Yeah.
And so like Harley Quinn is apparently a good guy or good girl, and several other Poison Ivy and a lot of other ones that are typically villains. I guess they're good in this iteration. But as we were checking out, they're like, "Oh, this is your first time. Awesome! Did you guys check out the classic game room, or no, classic toy room?" That's what they said. Retro classic toy room. I'm like, "What? Where's that at?" And they're like, "Oh, you have to go down this side hallway and turn left and go like through this little weird thing
and into my van."
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we'll have to check that out. So we go down there, and it's not like a huge area, but you guys, specifically Mark and Josh, would love it. They had a in the box Grimlock. It was like $175. They had the original Optimus Prime. I mean, they had a lot of stuff there. There were several things in there that I completely forgot I had. I'm like, oh, there's that thing I had. There's this other thing I had. I had that. I don't remember what they're called. Some of them were like really obscure, like Transformers or some Hordak something from like She-Ra, He-Man spinoff. Like I don't even remember what their names were, but I just saw them like, oh, that was the thing. That was the thing. So I was kind of geeking out. But Grant was like picking up stuff that were like vintage 80s, 70s toys. Like they had Star Trek, Star Wars, G.I. Joe. I mean, it had a nice little collection of things. And as we were leaving that area, I saw this other little hallway that led to this like much, much bigger room. And that was like the Ultimate Comics that I was expecting. And they had like giant rows of A and B and C of all like, fiddling through comic, kind of like hunched over, rifling through stuff. And that's what I was looking to see. So they have a kind of intro lobby room, and then there's no signs that tell you that there's more there. So it's not like you normally go down hallways of buildings and of businesses you've never been to. So I think maybe their signage could use a little updating. Maybe give you a map when you walk in. I don't know, but I have to definitely go back.
You do that purposefully to weed out the true believers.
Yeah, it seemed kind of like a secret society or something, but like the carded people. I don't know. I think in Mallrats, didn't they have some reference to like stuff in the back, like when they went to either the comic book shop or a record store or something? I forget what it was, but
I vaguely remember that reference. Yeah.
Oh, it was a music store. Never mind. I haven't seen that movie in a while. I think didn't they go to like a music store?
Did not go to
now
a
he's
music store.
Now he's thinking of Empire Records.
Are you sure? Oh,
No.
Chasing Amy is what I'm thinking of. Yes. Because one of the characters says, "Ooh, Yanni." Deep cut. Anyways, moving on. Have you guys been? My Kevin
Mark,
Smith
how about
is a
you?
little rusty, I guess.
Yeah. I just sent a model off to Mr.
Rouleau?
Rouleau? Yeah. Wait, which way? I don't know. Sorry, that's where my mind is. So hopefully I can get working further on my new scanning table. And other than that, I've been applying and applying and applying. Making gears.
Cool.
So, yeah, I've been I'm boring. Next.
Well, I think I said it already. I've been at the last. I've been at a Python development training for the past 4 days. Actually, including today, I've only been home for about an hour, and learning how to code a brand new programming language in about 5 days is pretty intense. And then I actually have to teach this in like a week and a half, so it goes by pretty quick. But on the other front, I just put out a video yesterday morning of converting a kind of like a vintage bed frame into a bench. So that video is out now.
I like that one.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off with some of the changes that I had to make, but it ended up working out okay. I was surprised too.
Cool.
Yep.
This was on your grandfather's bed?
It belonged to my
What's
it
the
belonged to my
heritage?
great grandparents. Yeah, it belonged to my great grandparents. I think it's like from the 1920s, and yeah, I don't really know much else about it. I mean, they've had it for a long time. You can tell its age by the way it's built. The posts were actually look like hand chiseled, and you can see like the mortise and tenon were all hand chiseled, and the nails that were holding these straps that I guess was for a little bit of added strength. The nails almost looked hand forged because there's no uniformity to any of the nails.
Neat.
How much of your family tree do you lends itself to that bed frame?
Dirty.
Not directly.
Would you not be here if it wasn't for that bed? No, I'm just-
It's a ceremonial.
that's right.
I don't want to know the answer.
Some good nails.
That was a pun.
Just
That was a good one.
Just a pause. To see whether to respond
That
to
was
that.
very good.
I thought I was just gonna let it breathe.
I do what I
So
can.
today we're kind of so today we're kind of kicking around the idea of talking about the idea or the concept of adaptation versus copying. And when the topic idea was presented, I'm assuming it was because of working in a digital space and producing digital content, and we're all doing that in one way or the other, and maybe where those lines are drawn, or when is adaptation okay, when is it considered copying, and have we had to deal with that in any way with any of the things we've been doing?
I think the big stuff that I have made that someone could very easily make the argument that is not mine. I think my first dining room table was a shanty to chic set of plans. I mean, if you're getting into woodworking or getting into projects, like there's free plans and things are available. Anna White has a huge database of projects that kind of get your feet wet. And those are, unless you alter them to make them unique, I mean, those are not your plans. They're offered there for free. And I didn't see an overt disclaimer saying I'm not allowed to sell the stuff that I made from those plans. But I don't know, it's a weird distinction when you're getting into the maker community because so many people share what they're doing openly. Like in the RV, like the table and the bench that I made, I was inspired and pretty much did a walk by, scene by scene instruction from Jimmy DiResta's videos. And I called him out in the video, which may or may not have been necessary. But I don't know, it's a tricky line to walk, but are there content police, like other than like copyrighted enforceable, like lawyerable actions? Like, who are you accountable to?
Well, I think too, it's not just the piece of furniture. I know that some pieces of furniture are very identifiable, like the what's it called, the Polk workbench. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
That one I think is like really identifiable, and if you kind of pass that off as your own design, I think that maybe that would be like a little bit more of like a bigger offense. as opposed to just finding some plans and building it and selling it. I think it has to. I think it has to do a little bit more with very distinct design that is recognizable. So that could be either in the logos that we've designed, something we do in our videos, something that we're showing, something that we've adapted from somebody else. I mean, when I was younger, when I was basically taking all my art classes, we were encouraged to copy. We were encouraged to copy from a standpoint of learning, though, not turning around and selling stuff, but as a process of learning. Of course, never passing it off as our own. But we were also shown, because this is also like the early days of Photoshop, how far we could take something before it was no longer the original product. And we had an entire lessons in class of, okay, well, if you take this picture of a dog and you mirror it, that's not taking it far enough. You know, that's still too much of the original image. But if you take that, if you mirror it, if you inverse the colors, and then do something else with it, so it's no longer recognizable as the original image, is that still copy? And that's where I think the waters get a little bit more murky too. How far do you have to take something before it is no longer that original creation?
Yeah, and it is, if you reproduce a process, is that if you copy someone else's process, but maybe the end result is different, are you equally blamable, I guess, for copying something that's clearly something that came from someone else's video? Or
I think you have to give like an example of what it is you're thinking.
I gave credit, but in my personal experience for this, related to this question, when I was doing the Mario Kart model, before I got too far into it, I don't think I even cut the first piece of foam for it. I happened to be in New York and visiting Jimmy's shop for the first time. It was when I first met him, like many years ago. And I asked him, hey, if you were to design this, and I showed him a picture, and I told him the scale. I'm like, if you were to reproduce this in a large scale, how would you do it? Like, I don't have a 3D printer. I knew he didn't have a 3D printer. Like, what would the process be? And he made reference to a Stormtrooper helmet video that he had made. But then he showed me the Stormtrooper helmet. It was under a pile of sawdust in the corner that I couldn't actually get out. It was like locked in because all this other junk was in the way. So I was sort of disappointed. But I ended up watching the video later on, and he told me an overview of the process, and that was where I got the inspiration of how to do the foam with the coating of the other material on the outside to make like the shell. And I did reference him in the video. I think maybe in the credits, or yeah, because it was all to audio music. So in the credits, I said, thanks to Jimmy DeResta. But I think in other media, I think on my website, I wrote up an article on it, and I did reference that specific technique is something that I got from Jimmy. But had no one ever seen that video, they might not draw that parallel. But if someone had, and it's exactly like using the blue foam with I think maybe the brand of putty that I used was the same, and using the spray adhesive, I mean, it's pretty much the same exact thing. Is that just as copy? I don't know.
I don't think it is, though. No? I think it's more like a chain of custody thing. You're given proper credit because that's where you got the idea from. That's where you got the inspiration from.
Right.
But I don't think it's because that is his copyrighted process.
Oh yeah, I know it's not his copyrighted process, but should I have felt obligated to give credit to him for the process, in knowing that someone might call me out later on in the video? Was it a sort of a not that I didn't want to call to thank him for it, but I wonder if there was like a little bit of me not wanting to have someone misattribute what I did, or think I took it from somewhere or something.
I would call it two different things. I would first call it professional courtesy, but also I think it's all covering your butt, because there's a lot of Jimmy DeResta fans out there that might recognize something.
Right.
but I don't think it's anything more than that.
Sure.
Now, if he'd come up with some sort of specialized formula that was his kind of proprietary mix of that putty,
Right.
and then you copy that, I think that you're kind of in a different water there.
I think it would have to go back to how you acquired that special mix of putty or the process or whatever it is that you're claiming to copy or steal or reproduce. Because, I mean, at Lockheed, we had proprietary information laws within the company, and there's stuff against like corporate espionage. And so you safeguard those things. If it is really that important to you, then you hold that stuff true. And it's your own corporate secret. It's a guild or like a trade secret. So you keep it close to the chest. And fortunately for the reproducer, in this environment, like all the information is out there.
Yep.
And so Mike Merchke had this happen to him, a good friend of ours from the maker community. He makes these really beautiful American flag, like military challenge coin holders. He made a video on this is how I do it. He has them all over Instagram. I mean, the process, his entire process is out there. I mean, it's the American flag. So as long as you have the proportions correct, but like how he makes the little shells on all of the stripes, like he found somebody that was ripping off his plans. I say ripping off in air quotes, like on Etsy and selling it. And he was like, yo, this is my design. And so he wrote the person, and the person was like, no, we did this. It's all ours. Like nothing is stolen. Like nothing is taken from someone else. Like don't ever call here again. And apparently it was the guy who actually made it. Like it was his wife who responded negatively. And so when Mike got a hold of the guy, he was like, yeah, man, I saw that you did this stuff. I thought it was a good idea. So I made it and now I'm selling it. I'm like, you have no rights to it. I think at that point, like if you're showing the world how you made something for free, then if someone then turns around and makes it and sells it or does whatever they want to it, it's theirs. Like you don't own it anymore.
Didn't we also have hear from Joel Crawford about that with the Spartan knife block? That I know that his design was getting copied other places too. I thought we talked about it. Or
that
may be patented.
He's getting copied out of Asia now, isn't he?
I think he said that, yeah, at one point. That a bunch of people have tried to copy it.
But you can get it on AliExpress.
Like, he doesn't have the DXF files to cut it out on a CNC available. So someone has to take it and like reverse engineer it and sell it. But if that's a copyrighted product or if it's a patented product, like there are legal standings for those. But if you are going to make a Mario head, you go, these are the things that you need to make a Mario head. And then when someone turns around and makes one, you go like, that was Wes's idea. I'm like, yeah, but I made it. Like it could have been their idea. Like there's no APA like college handbook type guide rules for how you will cite someone in this world and not get charged for plagiarism. Like, I don't know. I'm making cabinets. I'm sitting across from a room where I'm making cabinets. I didn't know how to make cabinets. I didn't know how to design cabinets proportionally. So I went in my kitchen and I measured what was in the kitchen and I took those measurements and just reproduced it. So if I made a video about how to make kitchen cabinets, am I then required to like cite, I don't know, Pella or cabinetmakerco.com? Like it's a weird thing like to put like a distinction like you need to do this or you need like that's your, I don't know. There's no board or convening
I think if it's
authority.
something that simple, like or that basic, no. But I think once you get into more specifics, like if you're just copying a cabinet box, no, a box is a box. There's only so many ways you can make a box. But if you're copying a specific design for a door front that some company had some art student designed and put it in the computer, and then you created that, then you recreated that, then maybe.
Well, there are actually Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
There are actually guidelines on at what point something becomes more like a intellectual property. And a young man's workshop is actually commenting a little bit on this in the live chat too. He says when it's a foundational or public domain knowledge, it ain't really much of a thing. It's more of a public relations thing that you have to usually give credit. But there are guidelines and limits at some point for a creative work. When you can cite something as being something more creative, that's when that copyright is usually applied. And it is tough to maintain. So like your example, Mike Mirsky, that's something really hard to kind of follow up on and enforce. Luckily enough, that guy even gave him an honest answer because he didn't really have to. We're putting these up online for free essentially. We kind of have to expect that at some point somebody's going to copy either the process or the end result. And if it's something that they want to protect, there's other things that actually have to be done to kind of enforce that, or you need to make sure you have a lawyer already on retainer to help enforce some of these things. I have a friend who I went to school with that is an artist, and he has some phenomenal artwork that he's had shown online for a while. And every now and then he'll find his piece of artwork because it's a very kind of like relates a lot to like mysticism, just like this one painting that I'm referring to. He finds it all over the place, all over Facebook, because people do image search, grab it, and then use it for their own purposes. And he's tried to follow up on it I don't know how many times. Sometimes he's successful and sometimes he's not, because he doesn't have the money to go after anybody, but that is his own intellectual property. Yeah.
I know when you download something off Thingiverse, you are agreeing to the particular license that artist has set for that model. And so whether it's a Creative Commons license where it says you can't sell these in mass, you can only print for personal use, or you need to crush or whatever they have. They have certain stipulations, but YouTube doesn't have that. So if you watch somebody, make something, I think it all goes back to like the intent of the person putting out that content. And I think people need to be honest with themselves. Like if I'm going to show you how to make something and then people make the thing, like how upset can you really get? I don't get that.
Yeah. It's funny, you brought up music, and I'm going to kind of take it just aside really quick. You guys ever feel that music has like an unfair advantage on YouTube because they scan all these algorithms for like the music that you're using in your video, and they can shut you down immediately? Yet visuals, or if you make something, there's no following up on that.
You'd think it would be. I was about to say you'd think it'd be the other way around, but I don't know. You'd think there'd be at least something visual, as opposed to nothing right now.
There are things that are visual. That's why if you see like popular TV shows that are ripped off on other people's channels, they're like wildly distorted or like skewed over one way or like zoomed in.
Reversed, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the audio that's still being tracked. I think the audio might be easier to track than the image.
Yeah, because there's metadata. If you take a song and you import that song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I mean, in the maker community that we belong to for a while, it pops up every once in a while, especially when people are stealing the content. I think people make a distinction between the product that they're making in the video and the video itself. And people will rip it off and put it on some lame like Jimmy's Woodworking or whatever database, or some multimedia company will show the video on Facebook and get X millions of views, but then those don't translate to YouTube, so they're really taking money away from the content creator. And it's just like I guess your artist friend. Like if you make a piece of abstract media, something that's not tangible, that someone could physically steal from your house, they steal an idea, or they steal an image, or they steal something that's just existed in the world. It's much harder to track, that's a much deeper debate.
Yeah.
Than I made a table and someone else makes the same table I make and then they sell it. I didn't make it for them. That art that guy made. If I saw his painting and then busted out a canvas and some oil paints and I reproduced it, like I'm a forger and a counterfeit, I guess. But if I signed my name at the bottom instead of his, I still painted that painting.
Years ago, when I was studying 3D animation, we actually had one of our instructors take our projects and pass them off as his own when he was trying to get jobs in Hollywood.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah, that guy was a punk.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We found out about it and we reported him to the administration, so he wasn't working there very much longer. And because we were having that fight too, because we were all studying, art, even though it was like digital art, our creations and what we were producing was really important at that time. We needed to hold that as our intellectual property because that directly related to a job for us. So we were actually fighting with the faculty at that time saying, whatever we create in class, I don't care if we're creating it for your school, that is our creation. We actually need the intellectual property rights for that because that's supposed to be, that should or we were hoping that it was going to translate into money for us in terms of a job or creating something independent, which didn't happen as much then, but I know it happens more now.
Yeah, you can get a little tricky with that.
Mm-hmm.
So are there set, I guess, PR type guidelines for how you should accredit someone?
In some situations, I mean, music is pretty clear when you use someone else's
for
music.
us in our space in making things,
Making?
because there doesn't seem to be. I mean, music has like
Right.
actual arbitration, and they have court cases, and they've had lawsuits, and there aren't, not that we should be the determining factor, but in the lack of formal guidance, let's come up with an idea.
I don't know. I'm wondering at what point that kind of applies. I mean, if I go and I try to make like not that I even have the ability to do so, but like replicate something of Sam Malouf's, he was a pretty well-known furniture maker. That should be pretty clear that I'm copying somebody else's work and trying to pass it off as my own. But I think there's a limit at I think it has to do with like the creativity of the work itself. If something is so creative and so different, I don't know how to really define that limit though of where that really starts.
Well, you were talking about that, and I had a kind of a weird example. So, do you guys know? Is it Greg Classic, the guy that does the glass-topped kind of river tables?
I've seen
really
it.
Nice figured wood with the like bluish kind of glass that's inset in the top.
I've seen everybody doing them, so I didn't know it was started.
It's different from like the epoxy tables, and I think that kind of hits my point.
Well, I've seen the glass, yeah.
Yeah, so he was kind of the first person to do that. He's got really famous and really popular, and he sells a lot of them for a lot of money. Johnny Brook did one, and he called out, and he's like, yo, this guy, Greg makes these. I was inspired to make one in the same style. So that one thing was attributed to that one guy. But the epoxy river table, no one has traced back to who the first person was, so it's not known by that one person. It's known as a category of stuff. So now everybody can do it because it's an epoxy river table, not, Jim Joe's river table.
I think one difference there. What was the guy's original name that did the glass one?
It's Greg Klassen or Greg something.
Okay. So I think in that case,
I'm fine.
something. Well, I think there's a couple different things apply because at that Klassen.
Yep, Greg Klassen.
Okay. So in that case, for his piece of furniture, I think it kind of transcends a piece of furniture and then also becomes a work of art. So this is an original Greg Klassen.
Yep.
As opposed to all these others. So yeah, he's Transformer and everybody else is GoBots.
Oh.
Actually,
Shots
GoBots
fired.
came. There, let me see. But I guess the same with the river table or the mid-century modern style, right? Like somebody started that at one point, and it went away from that originator to a category. And so I think he may just be really, really lucky that the glass top or the glass integrated wood table or whatever hasn't become a category now that everybody feels they can just do it. and it becomes their own without having to attribute to anybody. To where that first person who was like, you know what, maybe I can do that same thing with epoxy. And now everybody's doing it. They don't have to cite or credit anybody with it. I don't know if anybody knows where it came from. That may be part of the point. But is there a differentiation between knowing the exact person who made it or just a broad kind of category because it's out in the world? Like, I made a farmhouse table. Like, I'm going to throw back to Jedediah Cletus and the Shaker movement in Pennsylvania in the early 1800s for making this table.
I think that kind of depends on the person too. You know, like do you care that you have an original, or do you want something that, I mean, like take a piece of art for example. Like I cannot afford the Mona Lisa, and I don't particularly care to own the original. But if I can see a representation of it, it still gives me that same satisfaction. So some people want the original, some people want that. I guess you could call it a status symbol, or just the in their own brain they have the original and that makes them happy. Whereas other people just want to see the style that they like, or see the thing that inspires them. It doesn't need to be the original; it just needs to be what it was.
I think that raises a good point, and kind of like what I was mentioning, like, is it a style of table? Because you're never good, like, it's wood. You are never going to be able to forge or replicate a piece of wood. It's all unique. Like, all of his tables are unique because it's a tree. Like, you can photocopy the Mona Lisa, or you can hire somebody who's really good at copy it and sell it as a forgery and try to play it off as the original, to whereas none of his pieces are... they're all one-offs. So if I were to make one, in a new glass top, walnut, burl, whatever table exists in the world, it could be his, it could be mine, it could be anybody's. So why can't I say that I made that table? Well, he made that table. He made that table.
Well, if you decided to take that style and then modify it, and let's say you made all your tables with a burl, so to get that type of look to it, then yeah, I think that you could call it inspired by, but it's still yours.
I guess I'm of the camp where if I see it and it looks cool, I'm like, oh, that looks neat. Like, I want to try to make that. And if someone goes, hey man, that thing is beautiful, I want to buy one of those from you, I go, oh no, I can't. Because I just saw somebody else do it, so I can't sell this to you because that guy made one a long time ago.
No, you can make one.
And I made the table.
I think it depends on scale, though, too. I don't think the problem is selling one. I think the problem is selling 500. If you're taking something to manufacture that was clearly somebody else's design as a creative work, not just nailing two pieces of wood together. Yeah. But as a creative work, that's where I think it's different. And, you know, I think we've all gotten away, or I won't say that because that's assuming too much. I know that I've gotten away with replicating things that I did not own and selling them and making money off of them, off of somebody else's intellectual property. I'm not taking to manufacture. I'm not selling hundreds of these things. And, yeah, I probably shouldn't be doing it. But I know a lot of other people do. I think it's an issue of scale. Especially, I mean, you know, I know that we're talking about furniture and making things, but you look at all the other intellectual property that if you copied or reproduced in a high volume and sold, you would have, you know, a couple legal notices sent to you really quickly.
I guess we really need to track down the actual answer. And like, can you copyright a style, or do you have to copyright a product?
Well, you can copyright a style because that style is now going to be considered something artistic. Yeah.
Yeah, but each artistic has a period or a style. It's in the style of, like, there's the Cubist period because people decided to, or the pointillist, like pointillism. It's a. But
you're talking about a general commonality of a grouping of art, but not a specific piece of art.
True, and I guess my question is, how do you get to the general group? If he's the only person that's allowed to make that table, how do you get to a general group?
Having a lot of other people reproduce it.
Yeah, and like, how is there more than one hamburger restaurant? Like, how is it? At what point will it be a river table, like the epoxy style, where if I wanted to make that table, or if I wanted to sell those tables because I knew a guy that had some glass and I have a router.
Right, but if he was the first one to call it a river table, and everybody else is now calling it a river table, that would be infringement.
So it's a water table. It's a creek table.
At least you made an effort to mask that you're straight up, right out copying somebody.
But I guess I think that goes back to my original point. At what point are you not copying or it?
Well, it
I
becomes
can't
a
go
style
and make a MacBook, right?
Yeah.
That is a product. That is something that has dimensions. It has standards. If I go to recreate this thing, I am infringing on those kind of standards. But a table or a bench or whatever that's a utilitarian thing, that like it's a flat piece of wood with something decorative in it, like that, it's really hard to define, or in my mind it is. It may not be on some legal standing. Well, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on Greg Klassen's stuff or trying to steal his business. It just, at what point does that become a style and not a product that can be enforceable?
But see, you're kind of on the edge of oversimplification, though, because you could, you take a look at any recognizable character. Say like Mickey Mouse. Well, it's a character that is a mouse that has ears and a nose. Just so, does that mean that, if I redraw Mickey Mouse with smaller ears, am I copying?
What about a green tree hanging from a mirror?
But that's their shape, though. Like the air freshener people, right? So that is their proprietary shape. They came up with that piece of artwork, which I completely agree.
That is not a proprietary shape.
It is, though.
It is.
Oh, they made it one. They copyrighted it as one, but that is an extremely simplistic shape.
Still, but it's their simplistic shape. Like the Skype logo is a super simplistic shape, but it's theirs. They made it and they copyrighted it. But going back to your mouse thing,
the river table.
Exactly, and I guess that's my point, is your mouse thing. So you have a cartoon mouse. So the rat rod people that have the motorcycles, like I wanted to draw a cartoon mouse. My cartoon mouse doesn't really look the same, but it's still a cartoon mouse. Or, so if, I don't know who came first, DC or Marvel, we're going to draw pictures of people that have these superpowers. And someone else was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Like, I want to draw pictures of people that have superpowers. So they go, no, you can't. That's our idea. All of your DC comics better have inspired by Marvel on it. Or on the bottom of this table that I made, I had to go, this has been inspired by Greg Klassen. This is not a PI workshop table. This is this guy's table. Like,
so then what would have made his table distinct then?
It's a distinct style of table. Like, no one, I don't know if anybody has done it before. He was, I guess, the prominent person's first term I've seen it. But then people have reproduced it in video format that you can watch on YouTube, and they go, oh, this is this guy's style of table. That may be professional courtesy and a PR thing like we're talking about. I don't know what legal standing. Like, if I didn't say that because I made that table, I saw a guy do it, I go, oh, that's neat. I want to take that idea and do it too. Is there legal ramifications for making a thing and not giving somebody credit or an acknowledgement?
If they're big enough to be able to reinforce that brand or that design,
that's what it usually comes down to.
And I guess that is, with this particular instance, it's not a branded product. I'm not saying this is a Greg Klassen table. And I think when people are making like Eames chairs that are not Eames chairs, you're trying to benefit from the popularity of that person's name, which I feel is wrong. Like, that's forgery. But this is a piece of furniture. This is not the Mona Lisa. I'm not making a thing going, this is a Mona Lisa, or this is the Greg Klassen table. I'm like, no, this is Josh's table, and I put a piece of glass in the middle, and it looks like a river. Doesn't it look pretty? Another guy made these before, but I made this one, and this one is mine. And if you want it, you can pay me some money, and you can have it, because you think it looks pretty. I wouldn't go, no, you can't buy this table. You have to go to this guy's website and buy one from him. Like it's a weird place to be, and I don't know. I wonder if there's the table police that are going to come out, and I guess that's maybe the whole point of this is not try to like stir up a bunch of anger, but what says I have to say that's a Greg Klassen table because it's not. It's a Josh Price table. I made it.
Donovan, the beardless man in the YouTube channel, he made a good point. He said, "What about the style of people's videos? Like if you're going to do a non-narrated, sped up audio, sped up assembly build video, it's clear that people claim that you are copying Jimmy DiResta's style in videos."
Well, that's been talked about. That's been talked about before on other podcasts, though.
Yeah, but it's related to what we're talking about.
No.
Yeah,
I understand that. I wasn't trying to pass it off, but
yeah. At what point is it someone's perception that you are ripping somebody off? I go, you need to say that you were inspired by Jimmy's videos. I go, no, I don't. Just because you're an like overly abrasive cheerleader for that particular person, like that's on you, not on me.
I think that maybe the issue too is that different rules probably apply for each different industry too. In some ways. So I think like in filmmaking, and maybe Donovan can comment on this because I think he has a more direct knowledge of some of this. You know, if I shoot a video and I have a bunch of lens flares all over the place and a bunch of horizontal blue lines, you know, I can't go off and say, oh yeah, that was something I completely created. It's all my style. No, it's J.J. Abrams. That at least would probably be credited with it because he's probably the most well known for doing it. If other people did it first, I actually don't know. I just know that has been more directly identified with his style. You know, there's probably different rules that apply for furniture. You have different rules that apply for maybe logos and like characters like we were talking about. So maybe our conversation shouldn't overlap as much. I think maybe it's different in different cases now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, I mean, maybe not, because that particular instance, we were shooting a video yesterday where I had to look up, and it was given these really awesome lens flares. And I was like, oh, that shot's going to look cool because these lens flares are going to look cool. Then do I have to have a little thing? They go, lens flares were brought to you by J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot Incorporated. Like, or is that just people who were super fans of that particular thing that are taking this ownership of it and are very defensive of someone trying to recreate it in the name of the artist or in the name of the proprietor, when that is just, and they're infatuated with it, so then they become the police. And so do they have a standing, or are they just really emphatically raising rabble?
I think that industry polices it a little bit differently, though. And if you put a video on YouTube, that's different. But if you're an actual filmmaker in the industry, you would probably be called out differently about it because it'd be a real clear imitation of someone else. But like I said, I don't know. Maybe Donovan could comment if he's still out there.
Well, then you couldn't blow anything up. You go, this explosion is brought to you by Michael Bay. Or this terrible movie is brought to you by this person.
Roland Emmerich.
What about this is sort of related. What if what if the company is copying its own works and reproducing it as a new thing? Granted,
you mean every toy that was done in the 80s?
No. There are some like specific shots. You brought up Michael Bay and it triggered this memory. There are specific shots that he uses the exact same footage in multiple movies. Don't ask me for specific examples, but I know there are some. I remember looking into this. But like there are certain shots, let's say in Transformers, of a certain jet flying by, or in Pearl Harbor, the specific kind of explosion that like frame for frame copy of that same explosion is in another movie.
Disney does that all the time.
That was my
like
other reference. Disney does the same
stuff,
dance
right?
scenes for Snow White and Cinderella and all these things. Like, granted, there's no legal repercussion for that, but you as an audience member, do you think less positively on the company for doing that? Do you think it's lazy? Does it depend on the industry? Are you less inspired because it's not an original thing at that moment? It's just interesting kind of side spin-off of the conversation.
The times it's been brought up where I didn't notice at first, I always felt a little bit duped.
Right.
Like, oh, really? But I mean, I don't care.
I mean, I
But
can
if
say I don't care
Universal
about this
tried to take that
conversation, but we're
dance
not. We're
scene-
trying to make an interesting topic here. So
Warner Brothers decided to take Snow White's dancing and make Bugs Bunny do it. There'd be hell to pay
right.
because it's their stuff. And I mean, I get that. I just this world of YouTube, especially. I mean, when you mentioned Jimmy DiResta and his style of videos, like there are people that love Jimmy DiResta, and anything that can be done that is any has any similarities to something that Jimmy has made. You go, oh, you're just ripping off Jimmy DiResta. Oh, you're ripping off this thing. When he will openly admit that that's just the way that he does it, or he does it because it's easy for him. Or when Johnny Cash wore black and sang that way, well, I got no other clothes and it's just the way that I sing. Like, it may not be as important to the artist as it is for the mega fans of the artist to go around policing people that just happen to do something similar. I guess my question is there some type of legal standing that makes or justifies those actions? Or is that just people causing a stink to cause a stink?
I think a lot of people cause a stink to cause a stink. It seems I've been noticing that for a long time now. There's just some people who want you to be as miserable as they are, and they will try and do anything they can to accomplish that. Unfortunately.
I think people in most cases are after money and recognition, and if you get in the way of either one of those things, that's when people usually cause problems.
Yeah, and I guess in this case, like I'm sitting here looking at my table, and I have a customer that wants a river table around Christmas, and I think the river tables are kind of dumb. But I like those glass top tables. I think they're nice, and that's why this kind of rings a bell with me right now. So if someone showed up in my door to go, hey, that's Greg Classon's, like, I don't have to open that door. I don't have to listen to that person. Like, you're not a judge or the police or some lawyer slapping me with a summons or a cease and desist order. Like, can it even get to that level? Or am I allowed to turn a blind eye to people that I don't really care to listen to?
I also think there's a minor difference between somebody requesting this from you directly and you advertising these on a website somewhere.
I don't think there's a difference. I'm selling it one way or the other because the word of mouth can be just as powerful.
If somebody cares about their intellectual property, they would care about that difference.
There's also the I don't remember what the exact name of this thing is, but there's like a clause in like the copyright code where if you have to enforce all, like you have to show effort in trying to track down people violating your stuff, or else you lose it. Which is one of the reasons Nintendo is so notorious about going after fan films and fan creations of things. Even if I don't know, there's a weird line that Nintendo has specifically that they seem to always go after people that do these sorts of things. Like if I make a game in Unreal Engine that is a reproduction of the first Mario level in Super Mario Brothers, they're gonna send me a letter, even no matter if it's like the coolest thing they've ever seen. They'll send me a letter and shut it down. I've seen that time and time again.
Which for something like that, I wonder if you asked first and
No.
been like,
They have to say no. It dilutes their trademarks.
how does it dilute the trademarks though?
Because they have an
assuming if
avenue to license it, and if
a
they
fan
don't
can
enforce
mistake it-
everybody,
Yeah. If a
Then why
fan
have a
can
license?
mistakenly think that something they see is Nintendo's when it's really not theirs. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Nintendo must have made this. It looks awesome. And they didn't actually make it, then that's, I think, where the problem starts creeping in.
Not too long ago, somebody made a Mario game like in an Unreal Engine, and it looked great.
Yeah,
It looked
that's what I'm referencing.
amazing. Yeah.
It came up again in the last couple weeks. Like they kind of go out. They're notoriously aggressive for going after stuff. Which, I mean, I was a little bit gun shy about doing any sort of publishing of stuff that I've made. It's weird because like a lot of things I make, like the Thwomp guy and like the Mario Kart thing, they've like the nursery, they've retweeted it. They know it exists. They've emailed it around, so that they're okay with. But if it's a digital version of a homage to their stuff, then they'll crack down on it. So there's a little bit of a weird thing. Like I chose to show my love for these characters in a physical format. These other people showed a love for their characters in a digital format, and they're the ones that get slapped down, even though they weren't trying to sell it or redistribute it, and they gave complete credit to them. There's like a little weird double standard that I've noticed, but not that I'm complaining.
Yeah, Disney will do that too in certain circumstances, and part of that, I don't know if Nintendo's reason is the same, but part of it is maintaining the ethic nature of the character, like the ethics. You know, so if you do something that displays any of the Disney characters in a way other than they would want the character displayed, you will probably get a notice.
All right, so I looked up intellectual property. So it falls into two categories. Intellectual property refers to creations of the mind, inventions, literary and artistic works, and symbols, names, images used in commerce. So intellectual property can include patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and geographical indications. That's one category. And the second category is copyright, which covers literary works, films, music, artistic works, including drawings, paintings, photographs, and sculptures, and architectural design. So if Mr. Klassen has a copyright, but again,
copyrights are automatically granted when you create an artistic work. Period.
See, but like a drawing is a drawing of a thing. I draw a dog, or a can, or a sculpture is an individual thing. Can you copyright a style? I guess that's my major question. Because you can't reproduce a piece of wood. Like it's a piece of wood. It's not. There's no two are identical, especially in a river table where you're highlighting the defects in a piece of wood.
The piece of wood itself isn't the issue, but the issue is the design. Now the real question is that one individual table? Because I think this is kind of what you're asking too. Is that one individual table what is being copywritten? So if you do that same zigzag pattern with the glass in the middle, the exact same, then maybe you're infringing because that was that actual one created.
But that particular example, by nature, none of them are going to be the same. So
yeah, but if you redraw something, that piece of paper is not the same either.
I would say it's akin to like a recipe. Is a recipe trademark? Well, I think it is. Like, can you?
It should be.
It's
like artistic work, I guess.
So like your recipe for that table has the same ingredients.
Well, that's
another one would have.
That's different because
raw materials.
If I open up a restaurant and I start selling, Gordon Ramsay's, pick anything as my own, then yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure that has happened before, and I think they can come after you.
Yeah, but I'm equating. I'm not just talking that recipe as an example. I'm relating to his table thing. Like the raw materials are the same. Yeah, the individual, like if you analyze it at close enough level, they're different. Like this is a different type of rice than he used, or it's whatever. It's just
he's using wheat. I'm using basmati.
The raw ingredients listing, if you can sum it together.
Sorry, you used the word ingredient, and this is very important. So style is not protected by copyright. So there was Steinberg versus Columbia Pictures, as the court stated that style is merely one ingredient of expression, and therefore, for there to be infringement, there has to be substantial similarity between the original work and the new, purportedly infringing work. So in the case of the table, that argument could very easily be made that it's a table. You have that blue glass that he uses over and over again. So if you use a different color glass, perhaps, but you can't copyright a style. And so I think because his tables are so similar, you could very easily connect the dots between substantial similarity between the original work and a new purportedly infringing work. If I were to take a piece of wood, use the impurities in it, hollow them out, and put in a blue whatever piece of glass, because that blue color is very specific to all those tables. So if you change the color of it,
now if you did that,
may be the difference.
If you did that, if you did that and put it in a square piece of glass, that would not be similar enough. It would actually have to be a wavy piece to be similar enough.
But I guess it's up to the course to decide a similarity. So if you guys
saying that I think that would make a difference.
Mm-hmm. But there's the like Star Wars style, like Calvin and Hobbes painting or cartoons. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah.
So it's specifically talking about that cartoon and how is the Calvin and Hobbes style copyrighted, and can they go after this guy who is doing these Star Wars like versions of those Calvin and Hobbes styles? And they said they cannot, because he is not trying to reproduce a specific Calvin and Hobbes like scene, to whereas Justin Christensen, love ya, is reproducing Calvin and Hobbes scenes out of wood on a scroll saw. That could be gone after as copyright infringement, where this guy is recreating a new medium, but in the exact same style as that Calvin and Hobbes artist.
So some of that also falls under another clause with copyright, which is parody. So if you are clearly doing something for, a humorous, or distorting something for a humorous purpose, you can actually get away with it. It's actually partially protected by a First Amendment right too.
Yeah, under the fair use, because of the transformative qualities and the of parody and satire.
Yep. So the Calvin and Hobbes could possibly get away with it, under that too. That's why you're able to emulate things sometimes. There's also another clause, I don't think it's listed there, that sometimes you can show something for educational purposes. But in those cases, I think there's still an expectation that you give credit to the original or where it came from, even though you might be using it in your video or something else.
So to Mark, I guess to go back to your Mona Lisa, like you could draw the Mona Lisa if, I guess it does kind of substantiate what Sean, you were talking about, like changing it, but like,
yeah,
you could draw in this, it's a very obvious style, like the foul language comics.
Yeah.
You could, that style, like he has the bulbous eyes that kind of overlap in the middle, like maybe not the fact that it's a duck, but it has a very specific artistic style. The floppy-headed Canadians in South Park, like that is a very iconic style. But if you are not trying to replicate an exact character or a scene from that show, and that's what I'm gathering from this, is that he's not taking the Star Wars and replicating a Calvin and Hobbes drawing that was published. He's just mimicking the artistic style, and you can't copyright a style. But in the case of the table, because those products are so similar over and over and over again, it would be very hard to make an argument that by recreating one with that blue color glass and a walnut table, that you are differentiating from the original art or the original, whatever it's worded, original work. So you got to change the color of the glass.
And probably change the shape too. Because glass has been in setting tables for a long time.
This is a neat article. And don't put that person's name on it. Put your name on it. Because then it's fraud. That's a whole nother topic.
Yep. Well, I think we covered that pretty well. All tied up in a nice little bow.
From 4 non-lawyers.
And for anybody listening to the episode, I would love to hear from you if you've actually had any experience with these, any of these cases, or with something you've created, or maybe something that you've seen. Yeah, we'd love to hear about it. But in the meantime, what are you guys geeking out about this week?
Season 7 of Ultron.
Start it. It's pretty good so far. Halfway through the first episode.
I'm hoping Vehicle of Ultron. I don't know why I want it so bad. I just want to see it in a new style.
We went to go see Teen Titans Go the other day. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I've never watched the show. I don't know anything about it, but I wanted to take the kids to a movie, and that's what was playing. It is really, really funny. Like, they make deep fun of DC Comics. Like, it's a DC property. So, like, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, the whole thing, like, they pull no punches, and they make fun of it. It was pretty good. They go onto the Warner's lot, and there's, like, posters of Superman and all the characters all around, and all of the big posters of Superman have a mustache.
Oh.
It's stupid stuff like that. It was so funny. They have like a Michael Bolton 80s like power ballad in the middle. Ugh. I was very entertained, and I had never seen that show before.
I saw
Has a
Mission
cameo.
Impossible. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, my bad.
No,
that was a delayed. That was super delayed. No, go ahead.
I saw Mission Impossible last night.
Like it?
Yeah.
That was a cool movie.
It was good. I don't think it's as good as everybody is saying that it is. And my complaints are about it are kind of weird, but I think it's a pretty good movie. I mean, if I had to give it a score, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10.
It's a pretty good score.
Unfortunately, the trailers gave away a lot more than I wish they did. So when some big things happened, I wasn't as surprised as I should have been.
They had some like a pretty awesome PR campaign before that about like, oh, Tom Cruise did all of his stunts. Oh man! But when you watch him in the movie, I'm like, that did not look like him.
Yeah, there's a couple like on the motorcycle driving through the heavy traffic.
Yeah,
and I know that some of those cars are CG anyways. And I was also wondering like the shots where he's like on the side of a mountain or something like he is in every movie, and the camera pulls back. I want to know. Okay, I know he's doing that, but is he doing that in a studio, 5 feet off the ground, or unless you're shaking your head?
I would say no. It's like a sellable. It's a point they've made for all of them.
Well, I understand that, but some of these shots...
he may be like harnessed, and they erase the harness in post.
He's harnessed,
but he's on the side of the.
Well, I don't doubt that, but some of those shots, like really, that's real. That if they are, that's great. It's almost like a sense of disbelief. But yeah, I recommend seeing
that like fight scene in the bathroom that was really popular in all the promos.
It was not. I don't want to comment on it. Never mind. I was going to say something.
No, there was a spot in there where he looked old.
He's actually finally showing his age.
He looked like Liam Neeson in what was that movie, Taken?
Liam Neeson?
I remember watching that.
There's a Freudian slip for you.
And I was like, dude, he looks Taken kind of old. Like,
yeah. Scientology's finally taking its toll.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
At some point he's going to have like one of those moments like the Emperor in episode 3 where he just kind of transforms into the old man.
So you know what I just watched? Did you guys watch Bright?
Yeah.
No.
Will Smith?
I have no interest.
You know what? It was there was definitely issues with the movie, but it was like, Sean, go watch it. It was a interesting concept.
The premise is the best part of the whole thing. Like
I'm only going to watch it. I'm only going to watch it because I trust your guys' opinions.
It wasn't by any means a fantastic written movie, but the premise itself was
novel.
That was something I always wanted to see. Was like, what would happen if like World of Warcraft was in modern day?
Fairies and orcs and golems and all these things. How do they all?
I know the premise. Yeah.
And they're making
the little things. Like he was trying to exterminate fairies, like they were just these irritating bugs. Which I thought, like, it's the little stuff where it does bring you back into to reality. I thought it was kind of neat. It wasn't bad.
Okay, that's fair.
They're making a sequel.
Of course they are. Okay, I forgot who hasn't gone yet.
Josh.
Well, I'm kind of.
West.
It's a continuation of something I didn't say at the beginning. I'm sort of geeking out about it. I made an Instructable. I haven't done that in a while. I published an Instructable for my Mario Kart 8 nursery, which took me several days to write because it's quite involved. But hopefully I didn't skim over too much, and I included enough. And I included pictures that I'd never put on the video and other things that I still had, so it's a little more behind the scenes. And it's up for a video game related contest. That's why I submitted it. So
go vote.
So go vote for it if you like it.
Shameless plug.
Yes. But that was kind of fun. Yeah, I'm geeking out about Voltron as well. And yeah, that's all I got.
Josh, did you go?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Teen Titans.
okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, well, we'd love to hear from all of you. Go ahead and check out our website, makinggeeks.com. Hopefully you have some questions for us, maybe some suggestions for the show. Go ahead and write those in on the contact page, and we will get that information. And right there on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes. And make sure to check out all the past guests we've had on the show there as well. Right there on makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us across all the social medias on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast and on Twitter and Facebook at Making Geeks.
And we'd like to thank our awesome, stupendous, fabulous patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for putting their money where our mouths are and helping us keep... Does that work? Yeah, I think it works. And keeping us on the air with their financial contributions. They definitely don't have to do it, but it's much appreciated. It helps provide us with the opportunity to do things that are beyond the scope of just recording the podcast. And we'd like to thank them, especially our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams. Thanks, buddy, for your support. And if you'd like to join the squad, head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks.
And if you want to get a hold of us individually, you can find us all over the internet. You can search Geek Smithing and talk to Wes. Geek Builders, get a hold of Sean. Mark is at Asylum Design or Asylum3D.com. Asylum, that didn't make any sense. Asylum-3D.com. Wow. And I'm at the PI Workshop. Thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us. Yeah, it's super late. I'm tired. Thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us. If you think I'm wrong and you want to yell at me about being a butthole who wants to steal people's work, then let me know. I can take it. Stick around every Saturday for a new episode, and if you want to come hang out in a live chat, we got this topic from the live chat on YouTube. We record usually Thursdays at 9:30.
Yeah.
Search it. Come hang out. Come talk it up. So, hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you have a fantastic week.
Bye, everybody.
Later, everybody.